Hi guys, my name is Ivo and I'm from mytestedasp.net. It's time for the next part of my current video series about clean and testable C# code. This time we're going to talk about the random class and random generator and how to deal with it in terms of writing tests against it. Before we get to Visual Studio, I would like to remind you that if you haven't done it already, please turn on the bell notifications so that you won't miss any of my future lessons. Thank you. Now let's get started. You may already know that we have our ASP.NET Core web application in which we have kind of not so good code. A code that is not written with best practices in mind, so we need to refactor it so that we make it better, we make it following solid principles, and we make it uh, testable and clean. Okay, random generator. In the articles controller, we have this action which returns a random article. It gets all the IDs from the database, then gets a random from this ID, and then returns the details of that article. So how to deal with random? We cannot uh, we cannot test that because the random generator always will return different result. So it's not deterministic and it's not uh, easy to validate that the whole logic here is working. So what we need to do is get rid of the fixed dependency. If you remember, we already talked about the new keyword that it fixes a dependency, so let's fix it. I'm going to create a service which is iRandom. I will mark it, let me rename it to iRandom service. Good. Then in this iRandom service, I will get a next int min int max, like the normal next method here. Then I will say I need to have a random service which implements that service. If you have been following my videos about this topic, you may find that the way to do things is to extract them behind an interface. By extracting all your logic behind interfaces, you essentially make your logic replaceable, mockable, and testable. That's the whole idea. This is why we extracted an interface behind the file system, behind the configuration, behind the automapper third-party service, and now we're doing the same behind the iRandom service. So I guess you should be getting the pattern by now. You should understand uh, what the whole idea behind solid principles and especially the the dependency inversion is. And that is, don't have fixed dependencies, make them explicitly passable by the constructor and make them use an abstraction. And this abstraction can be easily replaced so that you can write your tests. Okay, so I'm going to say that I will have a private static random equals new random, and I'm going to say that this method will call random next from min to max, like this. Let's make it read only too, and rename it like this. Okay, it's a good idea to use only one single instance for the random generator in your application. This way, you are safe against repeating and predictable numbers. Because by default, random generators and random numbers are not that random at all. They use a formula, and because they use a formula, these random generated numbers can be predicted. This is why it's a good idea to always run a single random generator so that two numbers won't occur at the same time. If you need a seriously good random generator, because this random class is good enough, it's good enough for most purposes, but if you really need some very hard randomness, you should consider using cryptographic random generator. You can search it over the internet, cryptographic random generator. Okay, this is why I am setting the random class here as static, and this is why I'm going to register the service as a singleton. I'm going to say, okay, at singleton, I random service, random service. I'm registering it as singleton because I don't need more than one for my app. We are getting quite a lot of services here, and as our application is growing, it will become even more difficult for us to add service and service after service, and this method here will grow quite huge because of all the services. So you should consider making some sort of convention for registering your services. I have a video about that, so if we go to my YouTube channel, it's let's be lazy and use reflection as Peanut Core Services Edition. This video, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below. This video explains how to don't have to specify each service separately. You will be able to do it by convention, and all your services will be registered automatically. Okay, now let's refactor our articles controller. We just need to get a random service here, and that's more than enough, but I'm going to use a different approach. Since the random service is used only in this action, I may specify it here, random service, and what I need to do is just go from services. This way, I'm still using dependency injection. I'm still working with an abstraction, but I'm not injecting it in the constructor of the controller, only because the iRandom service is not needed by all the other actions. That's the whole reason. And then what I need to do is I need to remove the random instance here, and I need to go next on the random service. This allows me to easily replace it in my unit tests. But before I write down the unit test, let me show you where you can find this demo code. You need to go to my GitHub profile, which is Ivai Okenov, hit repositories, then write down TV here, and that's the repository in which I'm uploading all of my video lesson source codes. You can find links to my available and currently upload videos and link to the source code. So you can fork it, you can download it, you can play with it, you can do whatever you like. I will be extremely thankful if you give me a star on this project, and if you want, you can even watch it, because usually I link videos and source code here before I publish it on YouTube, so you will get the lesson before everyone else. I'm going to use the moment to thank my sponsors. That's Bellatrix, ReSharper, Softuni, Smart IT, Noblehar, and 1-Bit Software. Thank you guys, you truly rock, and I hope you will continue supporting me in the future because you motivate me to continue providing free educational knowledge for the C# language. Now let's get back to the tests and let's write a test. I'm going to add a new test here and the test will be random should return correct view with correct article, something like that. Going to say arrange act assert, and in the arrange I'm going to specify that I need an articles controller, which equals new articles controller. Then here I will need to provide an article service, which is just a fake article service. Fake article service. Then do I need a mapper for this? I will pass no for now, but maybe I will need, and I will need a configuration. So essentially I will need to extract the same logic as here. So let's do it like that. Private articles controller get articles controller. And here I'm going to reuse that logic, and I'm going to reuse the method so that I can easily arrange an articles controller. But I will need an iArticle service and a page size. So let's do it like that. iArticle service int page size. Let's make this 2 and let's make this no, like this. The const is needed here. Good, and the article service will be done like that. This means this is a new operator, which means if the article service is no, then create a new fake article service. Otherwise, use the defaultly provided one here. Okay, so I'm going to say that I have an article service, new fake article service, and I'm going to use it here. Something like this. Then in this call here, in my new method, I'm going to just call get articles controller because I don't care uh, about the article service total or the page size. I just care about getting the correct result. So what I need to do now is I need to articles controller dot random. I need to have a fake random service. So let's create one. Let's new class fake random service. My random service, and it will always return 1. Or let's make it more flexible and always return the max value. That will be more than enough. Okay, and new fake random service like this. So what we need to do right now is, yeah, but we cannot do that. Private read-only random number and public fake random service and random number. So let's always return this random number because otherwise we don't have control. So I'm going to pass 1. I will be expecting that we're going to get the article with ID 1 here, and that should be awaited. And what I need to validate is whether the result is a view result with the article, but that won't work, I believe. First, but let's assert it. View result equals assert is type view result. Then I need to validate that the model is an article, and the model should be article details service model. Is type article details service model view result.model, and then I would need to assert that the article ID is 1. This way I'm asserting the home method here, and I'm validating that the random method is working correctly and it's returning a view result. This test will fail, but at least we saw how we can replace a random service. The pattern is almost always the same. You just extract the untestable piece of code behind an interface and replace it with a fake one. So let's see what's going to happen now. I'm expecting AutoMapper to throw an error. The met the method or operation is not implemented, and that's fake article. Oh, okay, got it. We have to implement all IDs, and that's quite easy actually. I'm going to reuse the fake article data here, and I'm going to say select ID like this. But it should be async await task from result this article's data select from ID. Okay, let's try again and see whether the test is running correctly. It's not. Then we have details. The fake article service detail is not implemented. Okay, so what we need to do here is implement that fake method too. It would be very easier if we had a mocking framework here, but as I said before, I don't want to overcomplicate this tutorial, and I don't want to introduce another concept as mocking. I'm going to do a separate video tutorial about that. I just wanted to focus on the making clean and testable code part in this tutorial. This is why we're creating our fake objects by hand so that people will understand what's happening exactly. Okay, public async test article details service model details. Great, cool. We need to return task from result. This dot article data dot where article ID equals the provided ID, and we also need to select a new article details service model, and then we need to call first or default like this. For now, I'm going to pass only the ID, but I believe I will need to pass more data for this test. Let's run it again. Object reference not is administrator. We have a problem here because we're having a no user. So what we need to do is reuse the controller test extensions and reuse the with user. We already did that in one of my previous videos. We just call the controller.withTestUser. This code here creates a test user for us. So let's do it. I'm going to go with test user here like that and run it again. The problem is that I'm returning details and the details calls the article service. Apparently the article is not known. Then it checks whether the current user is administrator, but the current user is currently no, and this is in row throws an exception. This is why I had to call with test user to make sure that it won't throw an exception. Okay, now we have another problem, and that's that the view result is actually a not found result. And the whole idea behind that is because the article is not public. If the user is not an administrator, or the article is not public, or the user is not trying to see the current article he published, then we return not found. Because if the article is not public, we should not show it to any other user than the administrator or ourselves. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to just make the first article public. Hopefully this won't break anything. And I'm going to say here on the details method that the isPublic should be get from the date. Cool, now let's run it again and see what happens. It fails. It's again a not found result. But why? Okay, that's a problem here. Let's see why, and let's see what's happening. Okay, the article is public false and the ID is 2. The article ID is 2. Really? I'm calling ID 1. What's... Oh yeah. The logic here is that I'm getting IDs from 1, which is the second article. In order to make this work, I need to specify that this is not actually the ID. This is actually an index. Yep. And the index of all the articles is this number here, and the ID is a different number. So let's run it again and see what happens. Great, it passes. It's cool, guys. We did it. We made the random generator running correctly. Let's run all the tests because we changed the fake article service and see whether everything passes. Everything is great. So apparently we learned again how to refactor our code so that it uses abstractions and removes fixed dependencies like the random generator we had in one of our actions. Before I finish the video, I would like to show you my open source projects, which are ASP.NET related. They're fluent testing frameworks, which are quite powerful and allow you to write very fast and easy unit or integration tests against your web applications. You can assert your controllers, your services, your routes, and so on. I will be extremely thankful if you take a look at my projects and see whether they will be useful to you. And these projects are created in my free time, so I'm accepting any kinds of sponsorships or donations. If you or your company wants to support this educational channel or my tools, you can do it on Patreon, Open Collective, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. All donations and all kinds of support matter to me, so even a single star on the project is more than enough. And that's it. If you like this series, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the bell notifications.